Hello everyone, thanks for coming to the evening demo last Sunday night. It was a great time. I had a really wonderful time teaching. I hope it showed as I was painting. That's one of the beauties of painting from life, is that you're painting a moment as it's happening, and not every day do I get the pleasure of sharing it with so many people. So it was really a great experience, and I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. So the staff of this wonderful school that we're privileged to teach at or learn at or just participate in any event that they have together is they decided to film my painting as I finished the demo that we started, and I agreed to do that. I thought it was an excellent idea, and we wanted to be able to share it with you and you participate in the whole process. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time and finish what I started. I was obviously off to a really, what I felt was a strong start, and brought some of it to completion, particularly my center of interest here. All I want to do is define or refine a few of the areas, resolve some of these crayons. Not too much. I don't want to lose, it's pretty strong now and loose, and that's just the way that I want it, but I want to resolve just a few areas, put a little more paint on, bring it to a finish, and so I'm glad that you can join me for this as well. Alright, so we tried to set it up exactly as it was in the room that we were in. We're in another room now. So some of the crayons are different, but I'm just going to pull from what I have in front of me, incorporate it into what I've already laid out, and bring the entire painting to what I would consider a finish without overworking any area. I'll try to describe what I'm doing. There won't be any questions asked, so I'll try to ask them myself and answer them as I'm painting, but mostly I just want you to see how I resolve some of these areas. Particularly this one here. When I look at it, I'm not interested in painting the entire canvas and making sure it's all covered. I like it to look like a painting. I don't want it to look perfect like a photograph. I want some of the canvas showing through. I want it to look like it was painted all at once in the moment, because that's how I felt as I was painting it, and I want that to translate into even the finished painting. So this area in particular I feel needs to be finished because it is so close to the focal point. As I draw away from my focal point, that's where I want to leave things really loose and underpainted. So beginning here, I set up some green crayons. This one, I don't remember what it was originally, but I've determined it will be green tonight. So lay out a little bit of color here. I'm using the same palette that I was that night. If you're interested in finding out what any of my colors are, it's on my blog and on in magazines and all of that sort of thing. Those of you that were there, you heard what my palette was. So Viridian and Cad Yellow Deep I'm mixing together. I'm learning not to over mix my paint, just as a means of, I'm always looking for ways to make every little bit of it interesting, and so I find if I don't mix my paint thoroughly, I leave some of the colors poking through, it creates almost a broken color effect, and I don't know, makes it kind of interesting. So my shadows, again, are warm because my light is cool. Didn't talk too much about that Sunday night, so maybe I will now, but I like cool temperature light, something that closely resembles light coming in from a north-facing window, which is indirect light, so it's cool. And so we're using artificial light, but we're using fluorescent bulbs that resemble that north-facing light. Oops. I'm always careful as I'm painting. I'm not in a hurry to just finish this really quickly. I would rather what I start be finished, or whatever I do start, whether it's finished or not, I want whatever color or value or shape or edge I put on there to be accurate and to be correct. So I'm careful to not get in a hurry and make sure I get it correct. I notice a lot of times when teaching with my students, I find myself saying slow down a lot. It's important, and it's almost imperative in most cases in order to obtain accuracy when painting. So I'm going to take the same green, which was that I started mixing from the beginning, Viridian with Cad Yellow Deep. I'm just going to put a little bit of orange in it. There's a shadow here that's being cast from the crayon onto this block. And I want it to be the right value, but it's also very warm, so I want to make sure that I get the temperature correct. Like I said, our lights are cool, so the areas in shadow are going to be warmer than the areas that are in the light. Some of the detail here on this crayon. I'm using transparent oxide red and ultramarine blue deep, which makes a black really depending on the ratio of red and blue. So the pattern that's on these crayons starts out pretty dark in the shadows, and then it just sort of, I let it kind of mix as I work it into the light area, and it sort of creates a gray as it turns into the light, so it becomes cooler. It's funny, as soon as you put that pattern in, it becomes so recognizably a crayon. It's undoubtedly a crayon. Is recognizably a word?
It is now.
At this point, I'm just focusing on details, which I wasn't doing a whole lot of during the demo because I really blocked everything in, and it took a considerable amount of time to do that. So now I can take my time and pay attention to the details. And the painting is still very wet, which is nice. I don't like working into a dry painting, wet over dry. I don't care for doing that. It can be done, of course, and I have done it on occasion, but I prefer wet into wet. It's fresher and it's easier to work with.